And still with us in studio, AVIV BUSHINSKY, former chief of staff and media advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu, and Danny AYALON, former Israeli deputy foreign minister and former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. And AVIV, one thing we have to note, the last decade has been seen the fewest number of Israeli soldiers and civilians killed compared to all of the other previous decades of Israel. Now, some of it is maybe luck, some of it a situation that Benjamin Netanyahu inherited, but certainly not all of it. And the image of him as a hardliner and a hawk, maybe a bit, he's a very, when it comes to security, it's foremost, but he's very cautious about it, and clearly this is a field that he has really certainly made it his main mission.
We can criticize Netanyahu for many things, but in this aspect, in security, and especially in internal security, I think we should attribute this success to Netanyahu. Building the fence, fighting terror. And you know, it reminds me that Netanyahu always complained that when the situation is good, so nobody appreciates it. When the situation is bad, then they want to change. And I think that in this aspect, that since the Israeli internal security situation is pretty good, people are not looking for anything else because they're happy with what they've got. And I think that this is what I think strikes or bites Netanyahu, that he says people are now happy, so they're looking for something else. But no doubt, Calev, the security, I think maybe the security and the vaccine are the biggest achievements that I can pinpoint regarding Netanyahu's endless political career.
Right. Danny, it's interesting. A little under 3 decades ago, Benjamin Netanyahu and Shimon Peres both wrote books. Shimon Peres predicted a new Middle East in which the Oslo agreements would lead to peace. Netanyahu's book, A Place Among Nations, predicted that the terrorism in the Middle East would spread throughout the world, and that will aid Israel because people will see it as the front line. We know whose book turned out to be accurate, and maybe that's you mentioned his intelligence, his ability to, maybe not domestically, but certainly regionally, to read the map and to predict, to see what's coming around the corner.
Absolutely, his analytical skills really are beyond any comparison with any leader I've worked with or I have met or know. But you mentioned these 2 books. Peres about the new Middle East and Netanyahu about the terror biting everyone else. And I think that on his book, Netanyahu proved to be right. And terror, this was way before 9/11, and then of course the terror in Europe and the ISIS in the Middle East. So he was dead on. But about the new Middle East, he also made this Peres prediction true, not in the same way that Peres really wanted it, but a new Middle East was really, I would say, developed under Netanyahu. And I think that Abraham Accords is a major achievement, which is amazing. It's restructuring Israel's foreign policy and the architecture of the Middle East now in a major way.
All right, we're going to talk in a little bit more about that, but I want to go back because the other side of that debate of this over security, and this will be the major debate over his legacy, gentlemen, is whether he did miss an opportunity to advance peace on the Palestinian front. Obviously, how that's discussed in the international arena is very different from the perspective here in Israel. AVIV, what do you think? Do you think there was opportunity and that Netanyahu, as his critics say, basically was either too timid or too much of a hardliner to move ahead to some kind of solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
It's an ambiguous question. We'll never know because, Netanyahu, when he was elected, despite or due to the Oslo Accords, people were expecting from him not to proceed with the peace treaty with the Palestinians. But when he was elected, he said that agreements, you have to adhere to the agreements, and that's why he evacuated Hebron. That's why he went to White Plantation, and we were with Netanyahu in White Plantation, and Netanyahu did continue this process, but then he realizes that he loses the right because he's going too far to the left or too far towards the Palestinians. He wanted a safety net, a political safety net from the left-wingers, whom they didn't give it to him, unlike today with the Arabs, etc., etc. And then he decided to shift and go 100% against the Palestinian Authority and say, if you remember, if they'll give, they'll receive, etc., etc. And from that moment on, the negotiations and the relationship with the Palestinians stopped. But now some will say that it's not because of Netanyahu, it's because of the Palestinian leadership. So this is a question that I think that no one will really
Right, of course the circumstances have to be there on the other side, the Palestinian side. But I want to go back to what AVIV said, because he said there was some political calculation. But that's a great debate about Netanyahu. That could be part of it, but that's the great debate about Netanyahu. Could he have been the Nixon goes to China figure, like Menachem Begin was at Camp David and reached some kind of agreement? Or there were some who have do all kinds of psychological analysis and say because of the influence of his father, of even his wife's family, that there was a point he could not go beyond, and that it just was never going to be the case, no matter what happened on the Palestinian side, that he was going to agree to some kind of compromise.
Not mentioning even the Latin discussions with former President Assad, late President Assad.
The question of whether he would have made a compromise and given up parts. But what's your view, Danny, from having witnessed him over the years?
Well, also from, I guess, knowing a little bit from what was going on during the 8 years of Obama. This was where the crux was. There were the push for a two-state solutions for two peoples and a comprehensive settlement with the Palestinians. Netanyahu played along with Obama, and here it shows to his great tactical skills. He certainly didn't believe then in a Palestinian state, but yet there was a Bar Ilan University in 2009.
Which he said that he accepts the two-state solution, and then never said it again.
But that was it, right?
But he understood I think he was distraught after the first meeting with President Obama in the White House, when Obama said not only he's against settlements, but also not any enlargement, not even in Jerusalem.
Right.
And he said not even one block. Not even one block. And Netanyahu came back, and after he was kind of regrouping, he understood that he has to kind of work in a manipulative way. So he went with this Bar Ilan speech, and he went along with the 8 years of Obama, especially the last 4 years of Obama, when John Kerry was the Secretary of State. John Kerry came with a plan, which was pretty much along the Clinton lines. Bibi Netanyahu said yes to the plan, which included, by the way, dividing Jerusalem. But he threw only one kind of curveball there, which was let them recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
Which the Palestinians refused to do.